everybody. We are live for the week 6 coaches chat. It is a big week of lessons. It's, like we've said before, all the lessons, all the things that we've been talking about, especially like the mindset, the thought process, all the things kind of build on the weeks as they go. And so this week, a big week, is about limiting factors. And really this whole challenge is about dealing with real life situations. And a lot of things in your life can distract you and sabotage you without you even realizing that these are actually log jams that can derail you, even just a little bit. Especially in the beginning when you're starting to practice your habits and get used to them and getting used to this new way of planning and thinking ahead, to feel your habits and not be caught off guard in certain situations, especially like social situations. So we started the week off asking you to name your limiting factors. And limiting factors can be anything. They are anything that keeps you from filling your habits. Since, in the challenge right now, we're learning habits and, trying to figure out how to fit those into our daily life right now. So it could be people, it could be your work environment. Really, it's the people you hang around with. So you've heard the saying, like, you are most like the 5 people that you're around the most. You're going to do the path of least resistance. So if you're constantly if you're constantly having to battle with the people closest around you, then it's like what we said before, willpower does not last forever. And so it's really important to not necessarily like trash, your family or anything, or throw them away or anything like that. It's just get them on your team. They may not do exactly everything like you do or eat exactly the food that you do, but at least they support you. So it's really important to have that support system. And if you can't get it at home, it's you find a new bubble, a new tribe of people that will influence you positively. So, for example, my tribe is the people that I work out with. They keep me accountable, that type of thing. So if you're finding that your limiting factors are family members or friends, which I have one that I live with. My husband, he's one of my limiting factors because he likes to order pizza every single weekend. And pizza happens to be my favorite thing to eat, probably in the whole world. And so it's really hard to say no to those things when they're constantly in your face. That's why having a plan to work around them is so important. And so the assignment of naming your limiting factors is going to help you identify and really think and dig deep here. And you may end up listing out something that you hadn't even thought about before. And so it's a really, really important assignment. And a lot of my clients on my list have already done it. And we've had some really good breakthroughs trying to figure out, some log jams and problematic meals that they're having throughout the day. And writing it all out, kind of seeing it all together and finding solutions was really helpful for a lot of them. And very empowering, because once you acknowledge, once you write it out and you see it and you understand it and that there is solutions, that's empowering. And then it motivates you to keep pushing forward, because we're at the halfway point. So this is week 6. We are well into those habits. A lot of the habits are staying the same the rest of the challenge. You're just trying to fine tune them. And so you're still going to be in that kind of testing certain things out, figuring out what works, what doesn't work. But, understanding these type of, the assignments of naming those limiting factors are going to help you fine tune those habits and those systems to get put in place forever. So it's really important. The next day we talked about why fat is important in your diet, dietary fat. Really, really, really important stuff. Those are good lessons. And then the next day, Tuesday, was how to add them into your diet. So those are really good because like what we focused on is a well-balanced meal every time you eat. And so a lot of times people just tend to focus on protein because they think that's the safe food. They're scared of carbohydrates. Some people are scared of eating too much fat, when fat is actually the food for your hormones, and they actually help you feel good and things work properly. I don't mean go crazy and, eat crazy amounts of it, but the portion sizes and the ways that you can add it in can really help you get those healthy fats up, and you feel in control of the amount that you're eating, but it's also enough that it's going to benefit your body. So those are really great lessons. Today's lesson is the emotional versus rational. So it's kind of piggybacking onto about limiting factors. This whole week, besides the fat lessons, is about trying to figure out, how you think about food and how you make decisions in certain situations and in times that are like you're caught off guard. So today's emotional versus rational lesson is about just that. So your emotional side is like short-term gratification. So in the moment, you make a split decision to, you weren't prepared. You just decide to go off the rails or something like that. But then there's the rational side of you that is actually thinking beyond the moment. So it's thinking long term rather than short term. So whereas like a cupcake will feel really, really great in the moment and you'll love it. But then long term, it's not really helping you towards your goal. And is that one time where that you're going to eat that cupcake really matter? I like to use the example of like going to a kid's birthday party. Everybody loves cake. Everybody wants to eat cake and desserts and stuff like that. It's sugar. It's fun. It's yummy. But I like to say that I choose my credits wisely. So whereas like, if for example, I can say no to a kid's birthday party cupcake, but then I'll say yes in a certain situation where it's something that, like maybe it's my birthday and I want to have cake. Or like, for example, I just got back from a trip in Orlando at Universal, and there were certain things there that I'm not going to have for an entire year or until I go back again. I'm going to make that choice right there that I'm going to use my credits. I'm going to use that in my 20%. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't have those things. Like the emotional side is sometimes going to win, but learning to decide emotional versus rational and thinking beyond the moment and whether or not it's worth it, is it going to really hurt me not to eat that cupcake or vice versa, whatever it is. Thinking beyond the moment is what we're trying to get at, because when it's a split second or just like in the moment decision, those type of things can add up. And when those type of in the moment, like emotional decisions happen over and over and over, that just means you haven't thought ahead and planned ahead. So we really want you to try to think like no thought versus common sense. That's what we're getting at. Then tomorrow, so we had just talked about limiting factors, emotional versus rational decision making. Then we dive into what is the 80-20 rule and what is considered a treat or a cheat. I don't really like using the word cheat because, again, like we've always said, all food is like you can have it. It just depends on what your goal is. And, so there's no food that's off limits, so I don't really like that word cheat. I'll just say non-habit meals or non-goal related meals. But when it comes down to that, like We're trying to help you grasp what that physically looks like. So, we've been using the meal compliance chart, and that's a really good tool to use to try to get your head wrapped around what an entire week would look like and what consistency would look like, and what actions or what meals you have to create that consistency. So when I started trying to, put a finite number on what is a treat versus a cheat, I started looking at it like, well, okay, I think of a treat as something that's like a glass of wine or a small dessert, like a cookie or something like that. Not like a big piece of cake or anything like that, but it could just be something small. Nothing overindulgent. It's just like a little treat. So I say 3 treats per week equal 1 big cheat meal. Now, whether or not that's accurate, that is to be determined, but just for the sake of keeping things simple, that's what I'm saying. So if you are consistently eating a treat every day, so like what I said, glass of wine or a drink every single day, a cookie or dessert or something like that every single day, you may be adding up to a bigger cheat meal or like more calories or dipping past your 20% than you realize. And hopefully that's showing up in your meal compliance little calculation for each week. But a cheat meal or a non-habit filling meal or a non-goal oriented meal would be something like what I had the other day. And I posted it on our Instagram stories when I was at Universal. We had pizza and I ate like almost an entire pizza by myself. That's probably like 2 cheat meals in one, but whatever, it doesn't matter. I didn't feel guilty about it at all. But what I'm saying is like this would be like one big meal. So pizza, maybe you had more drinks on one night, that could be considered, that cheat meal, like more than you should have. Usually if you have more drinks than you should have, that usually leads to overindulging in other areas. So something like that, like burger and fries, something that is just a little bit more than what you would normally do. And also those type of meals include non-habit type of food. So that lesson comes tomorrow, and it gives you a little bit more insight on how we view the 80-20 rule, but then also how to kind of wrap your head around a finite type of meal. But later on in the challenge, and it's actually in week 12, you're going to get 2 lessons. One lesson is how to like define your 20%. Like a lot of people, and I just said this to a client actually when we were talking about limiting factors, and she came up with this this aha moment on her own, which we've said in the past, like in this later lesson, is that that comes up in week 12, is that a lot of people are trying to focus on what they can fill their 20% with. Like they're like, okay, if I just eat this amount of stuff, I can have this. It's like all the focus is on what they can't have or what is allowed in the 20%, when they really should be focusing on what makes up their 80% and enjoying it. It's not about restriction. It's not about not having foods that you enjoy. You've got to figure out how to enjoy that 80%. Because once you start focusing on that and actually eating foods that you like that fill that 80%, now 80%, when I'm talking about this, is habit filling foods. Once you start to enjoy that part of it, the 20% is just kind of filler. It's not like you're planning for it, unless it's an event or something like that. Unless you're going on a trip and there's some kind of dessert that is like your all-time favorite or whatever, and like the holidays coming up, it's really important to plan that stuff out and anticipate it so you're not caught off guard with a split-second emotional decision. So with the holidays coming up and all that things, you can start thinking about, oh, okay, I know this situations coming up, but I'm really enjoying my 80%, so it doesn't feel like you're, missing out on something. Like I said, the 80-20 rule, treat versus a cheat meal, is coming up tomorrow, but then we go a little bit further into it in week 12 and try to define what 20% really means. And then also the next day in that week, I define what my 20% looks like. And I kind of just explained what that was. It's not that I'm trying to fill my 20%. I am solely focused on what my 80% looks like. And then the 20% is just whatever, So anyways, we'll leave that there. We'll end it here. If you have any questions about any of the stuff that we've gone over this week so far, please message your coach. Like I said, go to that Sunday lesson, fill out that limiting factors assignment. It's very, very, very helpful. And then in trying to figure out systems and strategies to stay on task, especially in this beginning of your process, because 12 weeks, 6 weeks that we're in right now is nothing. 12 weeks is nothing. This is the jumping off point for the rest of your life. So we have to figure out these solutions before you fly the coop and you don't have a coach with you. So ask the questions. All right, guys, I'll see y'all next week for week 7. Week 7 is really fun. We're going to talk about exercise and how your food impacts your exercise and what types of exercise give you certain body composition changes and all that stuff. So be sure to check that out. It'll start on Sunday, and I'll be back on Wednesday for the week 7 Coaches Chat. Bye-bye.